Hey, welcome back to Fed Up, the number one podcast dedicated to the Federal League. I am your host, Josh Stoll, and with me is our executive producer, Chris Miner. We have a jam-packed episode for you today. We're going to do a scoreboard roundup, lots of action in the Fed to catch up on. We'll look ahead at what's on tap, and we'll venture out east of the river for the first time in Fed Up's history, where we have a couple of River Falls groupers on. Dave Meyer and new manager Greg Peters will be joining the pod. It's time now for our scoreboard roundup presented by Max Bat. Your managers all have the promotional flyer that Max Bat put out especially for the Federal League. So make sure to make an inquiry about that. Get yourself a team order together. If you're ordering as an individual, you can always use promo code FEDUP for 20% off. You can get the same wood that the pros use. They're not going out back and grabbing some scrap lumber to make for you. They are using the exact same stuff that they are making for Max Bunties. Put your order in, and that'll help some of these teams here in the roundup. Well, let's get to it. We got 12 games to cover over the last week. Last Thursday's kicked off the action. It was Elko Chuggers taking on the Northfield Millers. Elko victorious in that one. A little bit of a low-scoring football score. It was Elko 7, Northfield 0. Sunday was an absolutely jam-packed day. 11 games in the Fed. Lots to hit on here. Some big games of note. Minnetonka Saints took on the Burnsville Bulldogs. The Saints were victorious in this one, 6-0. Brandon Casadecalvo went in that one, got the win for the Saints.
That's a nice tilt to start the season. Measuring stick kind of game for both, I'd assume. Both are expected to compete, right? And the Saints did, but it came out, looked like they have the sticks early. I know I'm confident both teams are going to be able to shove throughout the season. So it looks like Minnetonka's Bats are one of the first teams to wake up this spring.
Well, another team that woke up in a hurry was the Hastings Hurricanes. They also victorious over a shutout matchup. They won their game against the St. Croix Valley Silverbacks 11.
Probably to be expected there. I'm sure Tuck has the guys juiced and ready to go. I'm sure they've been looking forward to this for a minute.
Arda and Andy Otto cruised through 5 innings of 2-hit ball in that one for the Hurricanes. Vince exploded for 7 runs in an inning early and rode it out to a 1-0 start. Metro Loons, another team that got off to a great offensive start. They took on the St. Anthony Norsemen. They win via the 10-run rule as well. The Metro Loons 16, the Norsemen 6.
I think you and I have spoken every time I've been on this, going back to last year when we bring up the Loons, we talk about their bats, their gap to gap, and they just drive in runs. So, and St. Anthony, we've talked about what they're going through this year with some turnover and whatnot. So, not a huge surprise here as well.
Yet another blowout on the schedule. The Minoka Grays opened up their season at Castle Field, taking on the Capital City Cannons. The Grays win this one 17-0. They pound out 19 hits. Big day for their new guys. Ben Schroeder got the win. He went 3 innings, struck out 6, was also 1 for 1 at the plate. Taylor Nelson, Fed Up's Rookie of the Year, was 1 for 2, had a double and RBI, also threw an inning with a strikeout. Joey Olson added a couple of hits for the Grays as well.
Can't help but notice that the first 2 people you brought up, I believe, weren't on their team last year. And you're talking about the defending state champs. And just like Tuck's team in Hastings, Lars and all those guys have been champing at the bit here to get going. So they start off the way we thought they'd start off.
Absolutely. A couple of familiar names in that lineup that had big days. Dustin Road and Matt Johnson combined for 4 for 5. They had a pair of doubles, scored 4 runs and 4 RBI. The Grays, not slowed at all by the offseason. They're off to a hot start. The RC Rockets took on the St. Paul Senators. They won this game 2-0. Colin Warren, back in the lineup for the Rockets, had a hit and an RBI. He didn't pitch, but the Rockets pitching was impressive nonetheless.
Talk about Colin all the time with these guys, and it might be unfair to the rest of the team because obviously Colin didn't throw it all last year, and they made some moves, and they have some decent arms on the team that we rarely touch on. That number 2, I believe Zach Rydberger is his name. He beat us last year. It sounds like they had a decent couple guys throwing a little bit in their opener, even though Rosemount's tough, right? They got a lot of younger guys, so I'm sure that helps just with the juice going into week 2 and moving forward.
Joe Hain with a key RBI ground out in the bottom of the 6th to add a little insurance without the suits for the Rockets. Again, they win that game 2-0. Leslie Vulcans took on the St. Patrick Shamrocks as they are welcomed back into the lead a little rudely by the Vulcans. Scott Angus, former Apple Valley A went the distance for the Vulcans, picked up the win and had a couple of hits as the Vulcans win 5-3.
Big shout out to St. Patrick, and particularly for me, John Jennis, former Bayside Viper up in Superior, rat shit, bat shit. Welcome back to the Fed, man.
Newmarket was in action as they took on the St. Paul JTs. The Northerns got 9 runs in the 5th inning. MVP of that game was Ryan Jewison, who helped on the mound. Congrats to Tyler Bergstrom, Nate Rost, and Drew Rhoda, who opened up in their debuts for the Northerns. I'm told by a Federal League insider that these are some big-time additions for the Northerns. Perhaps we undersold them in the preview episode. It looks like the Northerns are going to be a real force again in this league.
Yes, at first glance you see it and you're like, good for Newmarket, especially given the abrupt exodus, right? That being said, I believe we might be in the same boat as far as who our sources are, because I was getting whispers of the same during my game on Sunday. So obviously they have someone's attention. Someone knows a little bit what's going on down there. It sounds like they got something brewing.
Sounds like Bergstrom and Rost, big 1-2 punch, a little more organic from that area geographically. Definitely a reload for the Northerns. I'm told that these are probably some of the better players in all of the league. The Minnetonka Mustangs open up their season with a win at St. Michael. They topped the Angels 9-8.
Good for them. We kind of touched on it during our preview, how not much is known about what's going on over there and whatnot. So good for them. Yeah, St. Michael, not a pushover by any means, right? So interesting to see or hear more about that as, more information becomes available.
I'm going to guess that Pluff wasn't there and he didn't throw, but, the Angels certainly have a number of arms that, you would expect to keep them in a lower scoring game. But Mustangs figure out a way to scratch 9 across and get the narrow win. The River Falls Groupers took on the Lakeville Lobos in the official opener for both of those teams. The Groupers came out on top of this one, 9-1. Both Meyer and Marks go for the Groupers. Dave Meyer went 5 innings. Marks came on for the last 2. Groupers scored a lot early. I'm told that Lakeville's new lefty did hurt himself in that game, was unable to return, which is unfortunate. You hate to see, something like that happen early, especially when we've highlighted, the importance of Lakeville keeping their pitchers healthy. Austin Mitchell, I guess, was great in relief, but a lot of that damage was done early. Groupers victorious 9-1. Lakeville starting 0-1 for the first time since 2014.
You could call them polarizing. Is that fair to say, Lakeville, at times in this forum? Certainly makes things interesting after week 1, right? However, I'm not sweating it too much. I understand they were missing a few guys, and that is what it is in the Fed. They get a loss, they move on. I'm sure they'll be just fine.
In other action in the South, the Lonsdale Jokers were up 11-1 after 3 innings and did everything they could to make that game a battle. Milltown comes back with 7 runs, but they come up just short and lose that game 11-10. Bags BV is a Twitter handle. He gets the W, went 4 1/3. Mike Madison collected 4 hits and 5 RBI to lead the offense. Cochina and Sauer each had 2 hits for the Jokers. Their next game will be at Northfield on Saturday, but an impressive start for the Jokers as they're off to a 2-0 mark.
I was just going to say, good for them. They're one of these teams that, like we talk about, that usually go kind of in the middle based on availability and stuff during the season. So, all the wins you can get in May, take them, you stack them, right? So good for them getting off to 2-0 start.
Our last game in the scoreboard roundup.
I can't
maybe the best for last.
My glasses on.
Maybe the worst for last, in your opinion. But the Rosemount Pipers go to 2-0 as they blank the South Metro Saints 1-0. Chris, you were there. What can you say about it?
We're coming to learn that Rosemount has some of the best guys in the league. Coolest guys, fun hang. Sunday night was awesome, even though we got 1 hit and struck out over Baker's dozen times, I believe, by Sir Cliff. He was very impressive. I mean, he was dialed in. He basically was challenging everybody. Here it is, hit it. And we didn't hit it much. We started with Grant Shera, who dogged 3 good innings, shutout ball. Adam West came in and struck out like 4 over 2 innings, I believe. And then Conley comes in for the final or the bottom of the 7th and gives up a sun ball that ends up being a double, and the scoring or go ahead run in scoring position scores on Alex Mack's single, I believe. And that's the ball game, right? But it was a really fun game. You feel good about going 1-0 against a team like that. So we're 0-1, they're 2-0, but we feel all right about where we are.
Pipers look good early. perhaps a fatal error of the podcast is giving Cliff Christopherson even more petrol for his tank as we have left him out of the Cy Young and MVP voting. Not only is he throwing the ball extremely well, he's crushing the ball at the plate. Certainly going to be in the conversation for both of those awards come season's end. All in all, there were 6 shutouts this week. It looks like some of those teams could definitely use a lumber party. So make sure you head to maxbats.com and get your wood for the season. It's time now to take a look at what's ahead on the Federal League schedule. So for that, we'll go to a segment we call What's on Tap. What's on tap at Tap Society? They, of course, got that beautiful tap wall we saw in our last episode, 26 rotating taps. Currently, 2 of them that you can find. The Beast of Both Worlds. It's an IPA, Imperial from Lagunitas Brewing Company out in California. It's hazy flavors without the haze, West Coast hopping without mega bitterness. This double IPA with Mosaic, Citra, Strata, and Sabro is quite contrary to Kaiju. I don't know what Kaiju is, but it sounds amazing.
You could read a spot. That was good.
The other tap we'll take a look at is the Retro Haze. This is a pale American out of Minnesota, Bent Pedal Brewing Company out of Duluth, a smooth, hazy pale ale with a nostalgic twist, bursting with juicy citrus and tropical hop note. It balances a mellow bitterness with a pillowy, soft finish. You can find both those taps at the Tap Society for a limited time only, so make sure to check those out. So that's what's on tap at the Tap Society. What's on tap for the Federal League? We have 19 games taking place between episode 6 and episode 7. We're not going to crank them all out, but we'll hit a couple of the notables. Milltown Outlaws will take on the Lakeville Lobos in Dundas. Both those teams looking for their first win of the season. That game will be Thursday, May 8th at 7:30. The St. Louis Park Snappers with their rebrand will take on the hot-hitting Metro Loons at Derek Keller Field. That game on Friday, May 9th. The Hastings Hurricanes will take on the Newmarket Northerns. We'll get to learn a little bit more about both of those teams and their postseason prospects. That game is on Saturday, May 10th. The River Falls Groupers, coming off that big win over the Lobos 9-1, will take on the East Metro Mammoth from the confines at FNBRF Field. That game also on Saturday, May 10th. Hastings in action again on Sunday, taking on Milltown. Both those teams have a couple of games this next week. That game will be Sunday, May 11th, 5 o'clock at Hawks Baseball Field. The Lonsdale Jokers will see if they can continue their hot stretch as they take on the Northfield Millers at Trendon Memorial. Chris, your South Metro Saints are in action at FNBRF Field as well. That game will be Sunday, May 11th. You'll take on the St. Croix Valley Silverbacks.
Beat us last year.
Battle for Big Willow, Tonka Bay Lakers will take on the Minnetonka Saints Tuesday, May 13th. That game at 8:15.
That one might be the game to look at as far as this group. I like the Hastings Newmarket. I think that's really intriguing. Obviously, the Lobos, seeing how they rebound. But I'm looking at that Tonka Bay Minnetonka Saints one as well. That one looks like it, especially early. And I think that's a good one to. That's a really interesting one to keep an eye on.
Make sure you follow along with each of those. You can hear more about them on our scoreboard recap next week. Earlier in the week, Chris and I had a chance to catch up with 2 of River Falls Groupers' finest. We sat down with Dave Meyer and new manager Greg Peters for, I would say, a very podcastian chat, very conversational. These guys have a lot of great stories. Really enjoyed taking the time to sit down and get to know their baseball stories a little bit better and take a closer look at a team that we just don't get to hear that much about because they haven't been active on the social channels.
Right. I have an affinity for teams on that side of the border, just hailing from there, right? And then them being a common foe that we see regularly, you just want to kind of get to know them a little more because it's been very terse as far as our interactions before. So it was really cool. Take a guy who's been to one of the highest levels in the game, and then you got a guy who basically has been covering the sport. And so, those guys have endless stories. And I'm sure we just scratched the surface on that. It was, I didn't know what to expect. I really enjoyed that conversation. But yeah, they were really funny and really cool to talk to. So really enjoyed the conversation.
I did as well. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring them on. For our guests today, we venture east of the river for the first time in Fed Up history. We welcome Dave Meyer and Greg Peters to the podcast. Gentlemen, welcome to Fed Up.
Thanks for having us.
We don't know a lot about the River Falls Groupers. Past management has been a little technology averse, so there hasn't been a lot of pitching stats per se entered on. hasn't been a lot of activity on Twitter. So super excited to get to know both of your baseball stories and then get a little inside baseball about the groupers as well.
Well, I don't know if they've invented if Twitter's came over to Wisconsin yet. But
Probably a good
once I
chance.
figure out what it is, we'll get on there.
Well, it's called X now, so that'll help. But yeah,
Okay.
we'll get you pointed in the right direction for sure. When we have a new guest on the program, we like to just start off with what your baseball story is. You can tell us about teams that you played for. You can tell us about memories of the game, what it means to you. But with that open lead, Dave, why don't you start and tell us your baseball story?
Okay. So I grew up in Austin, Minnesota, played all my high school years there, played college at Mayville State in North Dakota, and had a couple of great years there. I got looked at by the Fargo Moorhead Redhawks. They were kind of by chance that I even got a look. One of their pitchers, Justin Fletchhawk at the time, was like, "Hey, you should go check this guy out." And Mayville's a legit program. He looks like he's doing pretty well. And so anyway, they called my coach, and I was packing up my car, ready to come home for the summer, going back to my roofing job that I usually did in the off season. And my coach called me in and said, "Hey, you want to go try out?" And I was like, "Sure." So I drove to Fargo, and I went, I tried out. I walked in, and I was like, it's crazy. There's, like 100 pitchers there, and you're like, man, I had no shot. And I was looking at all these guys, and they were really good. And I was like, well, this was fun. So I got in, and I got to do my thing. They were asking what pitches I threw. The next thing I know, they said, "Why don't you pack your bags? You're moving to Fargo." And I was like, okay. So it was fantastic, and I had such an amazing, short career there, but it was amazing to everything I learned there. I had Chris Coast as my catcher, who really, man, he guided me through so much stuff. I mean, you got to tip your hat to a good catcher, 100%. And he was a veteran of veterans there. And then he went on to play for the Phillies. He actually won a World Series with them. And now I think he's coaching at Concordia, and I think he actually manages the Red Hawks now. So yeah, I really got to tip my hat to him for really helping me out to get to that next level. From there, I started that next spring season in Fargo, and I started off really hot, and I had a really good feel for everything. And then I was pitching against the St. Paul Saints, and they were there to actually watch the other starting pitcher, and I just happened to be starting, so it's kind of by pure luck. You hear that a lot, that it's just guys got looked at by luck, and it was luck. And I was pitching against the Saints, and they were watching this other kid, and he was bringing it like 88, 89, and I was bringing it 93, 95. And they were like, whoa, who is this guy? And my next start, I started in Winnipeg. And when we came back, I got called into my manager's office, and he just, Doug Simonek, and Simi was like, "Hey, why don't you sit down?" And I thought, everybody was in there, and I thought I got cut. And so I was sitting there, and they just said, how would you like to go play for the LA Dodgers? And I was like, "You guys are hilarious." I thought it was a joke. I really did. Like rookie prank. I was like, "You guys are funny." And all of a sudden, this guy on the phone goes, "No, Dave would be honored to have you." And I was like, "No way!" Like it just kind of hit me right there, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah." It's a really kind of surreal moment. All that hard work, everything, you actually get a chance. Like you actually made it. So he just said, "I got a plane ticket. You leave at 6 a.m. in the morning. You're going to fly into LA. We're going to drive you over to San Bernardino. You're going to stay there. You're going to start there." I was like, "Okay." And right after that moment, they were talking to me, and Simi walked up, and he dropped a box of Kleenex, and he said, "Dial 9 out when you call your parents." I didn't really get it. And then as soon as my dad picked up, I got it. I was like, I made it, and just started balling. And it was an amazing moment for sure. And so then that next morning, I took off and got on a flight, and I pitched my heart out. Went in for a couple spring trainings, and worked my way into a closer role, which was fantastic. Kind of hung out. I got moved up to high A and stuff. I was there to make me for a closer. That's where I wanted to be. But unfortunately, I was behind a guy named Eric Gagne, who was set consecutive save streak at the time. So I knew I really wasn't going anywhere. That second year in, I was kind of like, if I don't make it soon, like I kind of got to hang him up. And it got to a point, my son started school in June of that year. When he was in kindergarten, it was just really hard to be an over the phone dad. And it was really getting hard for me. And so at that point, I was like, I think this is it. And so I made that tough decision. I did go and play in Canton for the rest of that year, just kind of short, just kind of see if I wanted to continue on. And I don't regret it. I don't regret like walking away because you see things that you don't, people, you see a lot of things on the inside that nobody else gets to see. And I see guys hanging on. I see guys away from their family all the time. And I didn't want to be that guy that was away from his kids and stuff all the time. So I hung them up. I came home. I played summer ball with the Austin Greyhounds. I came back and I played with them. Went on and I think I came back in 2001. 2002 is when I came back and won a state title, MVP without pitching in the championship game, which was pretty cool. And ever since then, I've just been kind of, my love for the game will always be there. And now I'm 50 years old. I still play as much as I can. I still pitch. I still feel like I can get guys out. I play against guys that are, 35 years, so 15 years younger than me. I still feel like I can compete at a pretty high level. So, and I love the game. So other than that, I give lessons. I work here at DBAT, senior instructor here in River Falls.
Hey, Josh, Dave's got quite a few Bobos out on Sunday. Sidebar.
Yeah, we hit on that in our scoreboard roundup. Of course, yes, the River Falls Groupers victorious over the Lobos 9-1. For those of you who missed it,
Dave Meyer.
Dave Meyer with the win. Yes, Greg, we're talking to Dave about achieving really a dream that so many of us in the Federal League have of making it, right? You had a different dream around the game and around sports that you've pursued. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your baseball story?
Well, so have you ever seen the Saturday Night Live episode where there's like three different people and one of them goes up to the UFO and the old lady, she's kind of smoking and she's kind of an old hag and she has a completely different story than the other two. Well,
Yes.
that's my baseball story. So I have I'm trying to rack up some of my baseball highlights, and actually they're dubious. But I gave up the longest home run in the history of the New Ulm field to Tom Steinbach. This was back. I was working at KUIC TV, and I was a weekend sports anchor and sports reporter, and then I ended up playing for it was Eagle Lake was the name of the town team. It was right outside. It was just the other Mankato town ball team, and we were playing New Ulm, and I had no idea. I mean, I know who the Steinbachs were, obviously, but I didn't know it was Tom Steinbach. And we came back in the dugout, and I went, "Who in the hell was that?" And they're like, "Oh, that's Terry Steinbach's brother, Tom." And I'm like, and they said, and I even was back in Mankato like not even that long ago, and I ran into a guy I used to play baseball with, and he said that they still talk about it at that park. They said it went over 500 feet, and they were like pretty confident on that. And then I also gave up the longest home run in the history of Bay City's field, which is right over the border in Wisconsin. It's right over from Red Wing. I was playing for the Hager City Skeeters, and they are defunct now. But we were playing Bay City, and Shane Strain, who used to play tight end for the Gophers, and he's like 6'7", probably 250. He's a big dude, and he hit one that probably has not landed yet either. And those are my stories of just giving up bombs, which I'm, which you're proud of after the fact. I mean, if you're going to be bad, what did they say on K-Fan? Be biblically bad, and I have been, but no, the baseball story kind of ended for me. It actually kind of ended on a good note in high school. I ended up playing. I was going to play. I played basketball in college at St. Cloud, but I played JUCO for 2 years, and then my cousin, you guys probably know him, but my cousin Chad Colander played. That's how I know Torrey Holt, is because my cousin lives next door to Torrey Holt. He played basketball for the Gophers. But I was playing at St. Cloud, and but my last high school game, we had like some East-West All-Star game. I honestly have no idea how I made it, but I think it was just our area. Honestly, I think it was because of the field we played at. My dad knew the guy that had the keys. I think that's probably the reason I got selected. But I pitched well. I hit a home run, hit a couple doubles. Like I had the game of my life, and it was a game that there was a ton of scouts were there, and so some I probably didn't really deserve it. I probably threw mid 80s at the highest in high school and stuff. And, but I got drafted by the Blue Jays in like the 51st round, and I didn't go. It was $1,000 sign-in bonus, and I was already playing basketball. So I never did go. But I always kind of, in my back of my head, I kind of missed baseball. And we didn't have town team in Florida where I grew up. But I went up to St. Cloud, and when I got done, I met a girl, and we ended up staying up here. And then so I started playing town team. God, it wasn't until I was like, we moved to River Falls when I was early 30s, so it wasn't until I was early 30s. So I kind of got a late jump back into it, but I love it. It's a blast. And so I started playing with the groupers. After I'm 52 now, so 38, 39, something like that. So I've just been having a good time. And we don't know how to run computers over here in Wisconsin and websites and things like X or Twitter or whatever the hell it's called. But we know how to have fun.
You guys are always a tough out. We just mentioned your hot start to the 2025 season. I understand, Greg, you're the new manager for the Groupers. Is that right?
Yeah, so we had everybody lined up, and Fred Barr, who had been managing the team for over a decade for sure. And everybody, he asked who wanted to manage, and everybody stepped back. So that's how I got it. But no, it's fun. I mean, we have some new guys coming in. I like them. They're good guys, and they're some good players and stuff. Brian Marks is 56 years old. He played baseball at Southwest Minnesota State, back in the day, and he's still, pretty solid. He's a solid player still. And his two boys are now old enough to play. So Jared and Derek Marks, and they both two good bats. And Derek, pitches pretty, really well and stuff. So it's kind of fun having that little trifecta, the Marks trifecta. But yeah, we played a scrimmage game against our town team, the Fighting Fish but there was a couple innings where we hit the Marks 3, 4, and 5, and they were on base together at the same time all the time. So it was kind of cool.
Beautiful ballpark over there as well. We love chance to go over and play on turf. We usually make it a point to play a doubleheader with you and the Silverbacks. So it's always a good time to go on that side and get a little spotted cow as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, new to the field this year we have, which I don't think is that big a deal for you guys, but I think we've had so many people asking us for Coors Light over at the ballpark. We had a contract with Liney's, and we have the Liney's Lodge, but we don't have a deal anymore, so we can kind of sort of sell whatever we want. So I think we have Coors Light, and we could probably get spotted Calvary too. I think that'd probably be a good idea. Actually, Josh, I can tell you the quick version of it, but that I don't know if you guys know that whole story with the ballpark and the turf and all that, which is it's pretty cool. If you guys don't know it, do you want to hear it?
I would love to hear it. I know First National Bank's name is on it, but yeah, please tell us how it came to be.
That field is 100%, volunteer built and volunteer run, and it was a group. Josh Idem and Ryan Bishop. He's the varsity head coach, and Josh Idem was a longtime manager for the town team for the Fish, and a group of other people. And there was probably 10, 12 people on it. Actually, JP Fireeisen he pitches now. He's back again now on the Dodgers. He was on the Diamondbacks, but his dad, Randy Fireeisen, was really involved in it too. But so it was just all fundraised. They fundraised about $700,000, and then we borrowed like $300,000 from the bank and stuff, and then and we got it built and all that. And we had grass on there till 2019, but about 2018, maybe even into 2017. Actually, it was in a blizzard because we were at my office, and there's just a guy on our board, just luck of the draw. I'll spare the whole long story, but he knows Dave Winfield. He just kind of buddies with him, from Dave Winfield said he wanted to do some stuff to help out. He liked the whole concept and all the volunteer and the town behind it. And we all thought he was just going to come and put on a camp or something like that. And he's like, no, guys, think bigger than just a camp. And what do you really need for that place to really start cooking? And we're like, whoa, turf, hey, now we're talking. How much is it going to cost? Well, we've already priced it out. It's like $1 million. All right, let's do it. And so Dave Winfield was, we did the work and the groundwork and did all the crossing the T's and dotting the I's with the grant proposals and stuff like that. And we had to raise a little bit more money, but yeah, Dave Winfield got us a grant from Major League Baseball Players Association for $850,000, and that's how we got the turf. So
no, I had no clue on that story. That's so great to hear. Legends, especially with local ties to the region, giving back and finding projects that they can really, put some steam behind. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing.
And one of the reasons Dave did it was because this is a true story, and I physically, he told me the story himself. Like we were sitting there eating a sandwich at it used to be Bo's and mine, and now it's the Nutty Squirrel, but we were kind of having just a meeting and eating lunch, and him and his brother Steve, they always talked about breaking bread. Let's break bread and meat and stuff. And so we said, yeah, we'll break some bread and have a burger. And well, and I asked him kind of why why us, why River Falls, and why not another town or something like that. And he told me, he flat out was talking straight to me, like everybody was kind of up and around, and it was just he and I talking, and he said it was like 1967 or 68, but he was a freshman at the University of Minnesota, and it was the winter time, and him and a buddy drove over to River Falls. He said we had a couple of dates, and they were coming over to UWRF to go on some dates. And they had their date, and it was good, and they were driving home, and it was like 1:30 or 2 in the morning, and it was a blizzard, and their car, he said it like some big brown like Dodge, something. It was a huge car, and it went off the road, and was messed up, and it was like 1:30, and he said they're trying to fix it, and this farmer comes up and it's like 2 in the morning, and comes up in this big tractor. He's got a shotgun, sitting in this thing. They're like, what, and both African American guys, and they didn't know what was going to happen in 1967, and so, but the farmer, he said he couldn't have been nicer. He towed the car back to his barn, stayed up until like 4:30, fixed the car. The wife made him food and stuff. They didn't know who they were. They were freshmen, so nobody knew who they were yet. And made him some food and sent them on their way. And he got fixed their car. And he said that's why I'm helping you guys back, because you guys helped me out, in 1967. So he said, that's a cool story.
Unbelievable. Little did that farmer know what an impact he'd be having on the Federal League 50 years later. But no, what a great story, and fun to hear how a random act of kindness can really play itself out down the line.
No doubt.
Dave, I want to ping pong back to you a little bit and talk about your time in high A ball with the Dodgers. I mean, you've had to have some stories and played with some really notable names, spending that much time with a, affiliate of a big league club. Maybe tell us your best. No pressure.
So, my very first save as a Dodger was in low A ball, and I got my first save for Orel Hershiser.
Unbelievable.
It's still like, to be sitting next to that guy in the dugout, let alone the locker room. He's the most down.
Was he on rehab?
So San Bernardino was like 45 minutes east of LA, so they would send big league guys to us, and then they would rehab, and then they'd send them back. So I got to meet like FP Santangelo, Devon White, all these guys. And Orel Hershiser came in and was the nicest human being I've ever met. We were sitting there, and like after BP and everything, you kind of sit in there, you play cards, whatever, guys getting treatment, whatever. And I was like, my partner had to go and get treatment. And I was like, hey, does anybody want to sit in? And he's like, yeah, I'll play. What are we playing? And I was like, wow. And he came down, he sat down and played cards with us. And he was my partner, and he was just great. And then I started sitting next to him in the dugout and asking him like anything I could think of to pull from him. I wanted to do it. And I didn't even hardly have to ask. I was like, hey, if there's anything you can help me out with, that would be great. And it was amazing at the little things that he would notice. Like he would say, you see this guy's hands when he's up to bat. Look at how he moves his hands. Look at how he moves his feet. Look at how he moves and he turns and he does this. And he goes, this is how you beat a guy like this. And this is how you pitch to a guy like that. And I was like, holy crap. And it opened my eyes then when I went out there, like how you pitch to their holes in their swing, right? And as long as you hit your spot, you're going to be okay. If you miss, well, then it's not going to end too well. You got stories like Greg. But I can't much. I've served up plenty of my home runs. But no, my first professional save was for Orel Hershiser. Some other really cool stories was in spring training. This story still. So I wore ringer spikes from college, right?
This is a good one.
I loved my ringer spikes, and everybody always made fun of me. They're like, hey, college guy, this is pro ball now. And I'm like, you guys don't understand. You put these on, it's like putting on pillows. I'm telling you. And so one day I was walking through, and Tommy Lasorda came walking by, and he stops and he goes, where'd you get those spikes? And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, this is, I don't need to hear it from Tommy too, right? And I was like, I really like these. They're comfy. I like them. And he goes, well, I sponsor those. And I go, you do? And he goes, yeah. He goes, what's your name? Told him my name. We had about a 10-minute conversation. He goes, why don't you meet me tomorrow for breakfast? And I'm like, okay. So I go through the line, and he's sitting at a table by himself. And he's like, Dave, I'm over here. So I was like, okay, I was like, I can't believe he remembered my name. So anyway, I go over and I sit down. We start talking, just baseball stuff. I ask him like his greatest moment, like in baseball, and he's like, well, Kirk Gibson home run against Eckersley was pretty big. Coaching Team USA and winning it was really big. Like just the accolades were unreal, right? And I'm like, I can't even believe I'm sitting here with you right now. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, this other gentleman sits down, and I'm looking at him, and he goes, "Oh, Dave, this is my friend Maury Wells." And I was like, "Holy crap!" I go, "I know Maury Wells. Yeah." I go, "Wow, very nice to meet you." And then another guy comes and sits down to my right, and he turns to me and he goes, "Hi, I'm Sandy Koufax." And I
Unbelievable.
was like, I don't belong here. I was going to pick up my tray and move. And he's like, no, sit down, sit down. And I was starstruck. I didn't know what to say. So I just kind of just sat there and I was like, I just want to listen to you guys. Like, I just wanted to hear what they talked about. And it was amazing. They just talk about baseball and about their passion for the game and how much they just love being out there and how much they wish they could still do it. And they're like, cherish every moment. So I kind of am. I'm still out there giving it everything I got as long as I can. I know what they're talking about. That passion for the game, the way you feel when you step out there. I still get that feeling, the competitiveness where when you're out there, and I don't know if you guys probably get it too, but when you're out there, nothing else in the world matters.
That's how I am too.
And it's my biggest escape from everything. For that hour and a half, 2 hours.
That's the damn truth right there.
I'm a kid again. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, I feel like I'm a kid in my neighborhood playing tennis ball, and I love every second of it. And stories like that, and I won a World Series when I was there, and I see like Dino Evil, he was my manager, and now he's coaching third base for the Dodgers. And just seeing these guys, it's just I just feel so fortunate that I actually got to partake in even that small portion of it. And I'm very, very grateful that I was able to do it. And I think that's what helps me when I'm coaching kids and I'm teaching and instructing. Like, I just want one kid to just get a taste of what I got, just a taste of it. Wouldn't it be just great if just you can say, I have my own baseball card, or like I have a World Series ring, it's for one other kid to get it and just get that taste. I don't know how else to explain it, but that's for me, that would be the greatest thing ever, to have somebody else get it, to experience.
I mean, that's it. Podcast over. We can't top Sandy Koufax. So this is the last episode, I'm afraid. So that's unbelievable to be that close to baseball immortality and have that moment, and then to just almost bottle that up and want to share that with another generation and keep that spirit alive playing through your career. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Greg, I understand that you're in writing, in sports. You've got a media background. Talk about some of your contributions to the game, just from that platform.
Well, first of all, I guess I enjoy it. If I go out there and cover. I guess when I was at KUIC in Mankato, it was on the television side, and we covered Minnesota State, Mankato, and high school, and then we covered the Vikings, when they were in training camp and stuff, and so I kind of know the southern Minnesota area pretty well. We lived there for almost 3 years, but over in this way too. It's just fun. I mean, I've said it, numerous times. I'm covering Ellsworth, Wisconsin versus Elmwood baseball, and it's the kids are going at it and just playing just as hard as anybody else is. It's seventh game of the World Series or Elmwood versus Ellsworth, and in northwestern Wisconsin. It's just fun to cover it. And I've said that numerous times. I've been, you can see the sun sort of getting ready to go to bed, over on the west horizon, and it's just perfect weather, and you can kind of start to see the flowers blooming and kind of that whole paint that picture, and then I just realized, like, hey, I'm actually working right now. I'm just sitting there watching baseball. I'm taking some pictures and and writing some notes down and stuff, and trying to get the angle for the game or whatever. But no, it's fine. I just enjoy it. and I kind of hope that shows in the writing.
One story that really stuck out to me was one that you did a feature piece on Mr. Dave Meyer when you were with
Yeah,
the Pierce County Journal. You
I
wrote
had, I had,
on
I had an inside, I had some inside info, knowing the guy.
yeah. Well, sometimes, yeah, that's life, right? You got to use your connections.
That's right.
But the piece featured Waffles Field. Maybe Dave, tell us what Waffles Field is, how it came to be, and what's so special about it to you.
I'd love to. So first, I like Greg. His writing is unbelievable. It's really good.
Actually, the groupers and Federal League baseball is what got me back in writing full time. And
So he would do these twib notes, and he would email it to the groupers. And I mean, this is like you're looking at the time frame, and it's like 2:30 in the morning, right? And
I'm kind of a night owl.
And I'm sitting there and I'm reading this writing, and I was like, this is really good. Like, it is really good. And he's got pictures in there of some of the guys on the team, and it's a classic, right? I'll let him explain more, but it's really good. If you remember watching that as a kid, but This Week in Baseball, you guys know, yeah.
With Mel Allen.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely.
Yes.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
So anyway, back to Waffles Field. I had a dog, a golden retriever, and we named her Waffles. And that was her yard, is my front yard in my house. And my boys are outside. They're now 15 and 11, but ever since they could walk, they were outside, and we were always playing wiffle ball or doing something baseball related. And so my wife she kept saying, you should just build a wiffle ball field, build them a field. And I was like, but if I build this thing,
because they're wrecking your grass.
Well, they're wrecking my grass, and I said, I'm not raising grass. I'm raising kids to.
That's
to
right.
quote Harmon Killebrew. I think it was Harmon Killebrew that said that.
It was Harmon. Yep.
Your dad?
My
I think it was
dad.
Harmon Killebrew, though.
He did. I think my dad ripped it off from Harmon, but I'm not sure.
So I just said, you know what? Fine, I'll do it, but I'm going to build this thing. So I literally rented a sod cutter, and it's like a scene out of what's the movie from Iowa?
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. It's like something like that, right? So I'm cutting up my lawn with this sod. I got all these strings and spray paint all over, and I got where everything's got to go. And for Christmas, we bought the boys the drop-in bases, like for real bases. A lot of chalker. I got a scoreboard, like an electronic light-up scoreboard
From the Lobos.
Yeah, from one of the guys on the
From one of the guys on the Lobos.
And then I was like, let's do this. So I made cement bases for it. We buried it. I cut out the sod. We laid down all the crushed red rock, tamped everything in. Now it's up and running. I got a fence put up, and it is legit. Like,
you guys don't know this about Dave. He's a woodworker, and so he's very meticulous. And his you can see the level of
it's well made.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
I did. I met
it's extremely meticulous baseball field, wiffle ball field.
I came home and I was like, yeah, they're delivering all the other materials tomorrow. And my wife's like, what are you talking about? Well, we got to have covered dugouts, and I got light poles.
I love it.
But I was totally kidding. We don't have lights or anything like that. But I think the boys asked me if I would do lights, and that's still in the talks yet. But I don't know if that's going to happen.
Cool.
And I do. I had people asking me like that I give lessons to, if they could like rent it from me or whatever for a birthday party. I'm like, you know what? Just go use it.
Just use it, yeah.
That's why I built it. Just go use it. And to see kids out there playing ball, it's the greatest thing ever. I love it.
And they're always at your house, so you constantly get to watch it every day during the summer. You get that seat. That's awesome.
I do. And what's really nice is if you sit up and there's a picture of Greg and I. I should see if my wife still has it on her phone. But there's a picture of Greg and I when he was writing the article and he was doing the article. We're sitting at the end of my deck on the front porch, which literally overlooks center field, so you can see the whole thing.
It's like box seats.
It's amazing. And to watch like my kids out there, and they have some of the neighbor kids over, and some of the neighbor kids are a little bit younger, to watch them helping that next generation coming up, it's awesome. My kids, one of the now he's 15, he's a freshman in high school. They asked already if this summer when baseball's over, they want, because another friend, he actually built one first, and then I built mine, and they're gonna have a tournament this summer, and they're gonna have like I think they're gonna call it like the Miller Lite World Series or something. They're gonna have a taste great in a less filling division.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they're gonna have like the World Series is gonna be at my house or something. I don't know. They got this whole thing worked out, but they got like 30 guys. They're talking like 10 teams. I'm like, whatever you guys want to do, I don't care. Have super.
What a fun way to just grow the game and instill the love of baseball into the next generation. I guess that makes you the Kevin Costner, Dave, and then Greg, you would be James Earl Jones in this.
That, I guess that'd be probably pretty accurate.
Let's talk a little bit about the opener. You know, we mentioned the score on the outset. Groupers over the Lobos 9-1. The Lobos starting 0-1 for the first time since 2014, I believe it was. Obviously, we are very bullish on the Lobos here on Fed Up. Picked them to go, I think, 15-3 on the season and be a high seed in the AAA. Stumbling out of the gate. You know, with that said, anytime that Meyer and Marks go and you both went, you give the groupers a shot to win. But tell us a little bit about what went right in that game.
Well, with the Marks and Marks combination, the trifecta that we had going on out there, and our bats, they came alive. We hit the ball, and you know, we definitely.
How did Mitchell Lewis was catching? What was he catching?
Yeah.
So yeah, Mitch Lewis. Can't, you know, he's new this year. He's a rookie, and he's a younger over 35 guy. And he, again, you know, he was one of the guys that came from the Hudson River Rats, the town team, and kind of graduating to the over 35. And he's a solid catcher, solid player, and he's a helpful, you know, addition to the group too.
Yeah, I think he had like 3 hits too. We hit the ball really well. They had a couple errors. We pounced on that every time they made one. We took it to our advantage for sure. Pitching was good. Third inning, I went out there working on changeups, and I kept spiking it. And I was like, God, just gonna lay one into this guy. We're at the bottom of the order, and he took me deep for the 1 run that they got. And then after that, I was like, well, that guy's not gonna see another thing but fastballs all day. So I bet him, and he was good after that. Like, we took care of him, but yeah, we held their bats pretty quiet. I think they had a total of 5 hits the whole game. So
Josh, you know, so Torrey, and I'm trying to remember what year it was, but the Groupers and Lobos, we ended up playing. It was the Federal League Championship, and Torrey kept, you know, moving the game back, and we ended up playing like in mid-September for some reason. I don't know if it was like 2018 or 2018. Yeah, 2018, and it was an epic game. Like, Dave was pitching. I think Dave pitched all 11 innings, and I think Jamie
Steinberg.
Yeah, Jamie Steinberg pitched all 11 for them, and it was 1-1 into the 11th. And Torrey, you know, have you ever seen it's the second Saturday Night Live reference? You remember the old Saturday Night Live where Chris Farley would be interviewing like Paul McCartney or whatever, like, hey, remember? And it just send the guy, yep, I remember that. I was there. And Torrey does the same thing to me. Like, we play those guys at least once or twice a year. Every year we usually play an exhibition game against them, and then we usually play one game against them. And so we see Torrey. I see him at least twice a year, if not more. And I see all his Facebook posts all year long too. So, but Torrey, you know, every time he sees me, he's like, hey, you remember when it was the 11th inning and it was, and you came up with bases loaded, and we got 3 in the top, and you came up with bases loaded and 2 down, and you know, you could have tied it up with a home run. And, you know, remember when you popped out to center? And I'm like, yep, I remember that. Yep. And he says it every year he brings up and shows me their video. He has a video of.
The groupers have been kind of even keel the last couple of years. I mean, you guys have finished somewhere around that 9-9, 10-8 mark. You've been in the AA, been a low seed in the AA. Don't really see a lot of Meyer or Marks in the postseason, at least not the last couple of years. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe is this the year
because their kids are too good and they're always playing on Championship Sunday. That's the reason. If their kids weren't as good, then they would be playing more. But we're not gonna cheer against their kids.
I coach my kids; they better be good. God damn
it! No, but we've definitely probably been, other than Dave, you know, we've probably been lacking some pitching for sure, and just getting older like everybody. You know, we've kind of had the pretty same group of core guys for honestly probably the last 10 years, and And
Yeah.
10 years ago, we were all, 40, and now we're not. And so we kind of had to
Well, when I
get a little younger.
When I first started, I was 40, and actually, it was Jeremy Werner asked me to come and try out. He goes, "Oh, you should come play baseball." And I was like, eh. And he's like, "Well, you've played baseball before, haven't you?" And I was like, "A little bit." He never knew anything about my background. And then he goes, "Why don't you come and try out?" So I was like, "All right, I'll come try out."
We took him.
So
Yeah. You
So
you passed the tryout.
I went to the
Yeah, he
tryout.
passed.
I went to the tryout. This is were you there? I don't know, but they're like,
I
they're like,
probably
"What
was.
position do you play?" And I was like, "Well, pitcher, outfield, wherever. I'll play wherever." And I said, "But mainly I pitch." And they're like, "Oh, okay. Well, why don't you go warm up in the bullpen, and then you can come out and you can throw to like Machi, our leadoff guy, see how you do."
Ramon.
And I threw, I think it was 2 pitches to Ramon, and he just goes, "Fuck this guy," and he walked off. He didn't want to hit. He goes, "He's good. He's good." Like that was it. That was my tryout for the groupers. I think it was right. It was right then and there. I knew I'm gonna like these guys.
Yeah.
They're not too serious. They're out there to have fun. I mean, it's competitive. Don't get me wrong, but in the end of the day, like I was worried because in the past, like you're on some of these amateur teams and you're like, "Hey, I can't make it. My kid's got a game or whatever," and then you get the guilt trip, and these guys are like, "All right, we'll see you next week. We all understand. We all have kids, and it's great." And I have to admit, like this has been like Greg said, it's been kind of a core group for the last 10 years, and it's been it's a tight knit group. And I mean, these guys have let me in, and they're like family to me, and it's
There's most of the team. I mean, now we got a lot of new guys, but I mean, we're all pretty. I mean, we're all best friends, to be honest with you. We see each other outside of baseball and go to each other's kids stuff and all that kind of stuff. But and plus when you have Ramon Perez is from Puerto Rico. Now he's lived in St. Paul for the last 20 something years, but his favorite band of all time, and this is a true story, it's Air Supply. I'm not kidding you. Anytime you have a teammate that their favorite band of all time is Air Supply, you sign him up. You sign him up. You sign that guy up, and you sign him to a 10-year contract.
Let this episode then be the public service announcement for the Federal League. Healthy Meyer, Marks is there, a couple of new young talent from Hudson. The groupers are on the rise by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that, Josh.
It's weird because when I first got there, Greg and myself and stuff, we were kind of the younger guys.
Yeah.
And now I look down the dugout and I'm like, Greg is 52, Marks is 56, and I'm like, I'm 50. I'm like, now I'm the old guy.
Yeah.
It's crazy how fast that time changed. When I was kind of the younger guy, now I'm the older guy.
And for some reason, Josh, I think my wife, must have washed and dried my jersey like too much. Like my jersey shrunk for some reason, and I feel like Tommy Lasorda walking around the dugout. But I need to get some that. But also, I was going to say what kind of spikes are those again?
Ringers.
The ringers. I got to get some ringer spikes.
If you get some ringer spikes and hold a Slim Fast, we can put that on notes.
We will
Slim Fast. Oh, remember those commercials?
Wow.
Holy shit! Slim Fast.
Yeah.
I got to get some Slim Fast and some ringer cleats. I hate my cleats, but I'm going to get. Do they still make them?
They do.
I'm going to buy ringer cleats.
Josh, can I ask them a question along the lines of old people baseball? Now that you guys are both 50, I know we have at the South Metro, we've had same older guys forever, and they're slowly kind of moving on. And a lot of them play more ball than I do. They play on 3-4 teams because they got their 45 and older team, they got their 50 and older team, and they do that traveling and all that stuff. Have either of you guys done anything older than 35 where the threshold starts with a 4 or 5, where you'd be like, "Oh, I'm the young guy again," and kind of reset? Or have you even thought of that? Or
Well, there was talk of just doing it over 50 last year, and but then I was kind of looking at our numbers and our players, and I was like, well, if we did that, then the groupers would kind of go defunct. So we'll probably try to stick around for sure for a few more years and kind of get those guys engulfed in the over 35 team and all that. And then when it's in good hands, maybe we'll go. Well, Dave's got a few more, but yeah, to me it's fun. I mean, I might Yeah, we probably will do over 50 at some point in time, but not right now anyway.
I for some reason I just feel like the bunch of us within the same 5 year window, right? I'm 44, like
Right.
5-10 year window. I feel like it's kind of you're gonna see the 50 and older leagues in like 10 years start to blow up. You know what I mean? Kind of like the Fed did 5 years ago.
100%.
I agree.
I agree 100%. They
with
will.
that.
Yeah.
Because guys like us will still play. Like I still want to play. I'll play as long as I can. So here's a good story. I go down and I play in that Roy Hobbs World Series in that third week in October, and that is like we play in the highest division down there, and it's
Over 35.
It's over 35. It's 35 and older. It's the veterans division. It's the 4A division. So it's like every team in there, they all have like X pros, and there's no limit. Like you can have whatever you want. So like, and there's teams that come from all over the world. So when you have like Team Puerto Rico and like Jose Barrios is their manager, which is awesome. And you face these guys that pitched in the bigs, they've pitched in the minors, and they're all very, very good. And like, there's something about it when I go down there to where I'm almost 50, and you can have guys that are 30. You can have 5 guys on your team that are 30. They just can't pitch. They can all bat. So I got, this is going to be my last year going down there with a 35s, but it's one of those where I just want to go down there and say, I got guys out that were 20 years younger than me, and I don't know why. I have no reason to do it. I have nothing to prove. I just want to be able to say I did it. And I want to do it. And I think when that happened was not this last year, but the year before. I was down there and there was an older gentleman just standing by the fence after the game. And he came up to me and he goes, you really threw well out there. And I was like, oh, thank you. I go, do you play? And he goes, I play in 3 weeks. And I go, you do? And he goes, I play for the 72 and over team. And I go, well, how old are you? And he goes, I'm 84.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. And then I go, well, what position do you play? And he goes, I will catch 54 innings in 3 weeks.
Oh,
This guy's a machine.
And I was like, so you're a catcher. And I go, how do you stay in shape? And he grabbed onto the bleacher and he did a squat and he stood up and he goes, I do 100 of these every day to keep me in shape for that 1 week.
wow.
And it blew my mind.
That's crazy.
And he goes, for 1 week, he goes, I get to be 10 again. And I just,
Yeah.
I walked away and I was just, after talking to him, and I was like, that's why I do it. Just that guy right there. For that 1 week, I get to be a kid again. So it's just, that guy he blew my mind. I'm like, I don't even know if I'll be alive, let alone be able to catch. And he'll catch every game. He goes, I'm preparing 6, 9
That's
inning
crazy.
games.
That is crazy.
And
Those are some life goals. Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm a little sore today after my 5 innings, but I'm not going to complain. After talking to that guy, I'm like, I'm just happy I could be out there.
Dave, I want to ask you a question about a moment you shared when you're with the Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks, when you walked into that tryout period and you saw all those other guys there, and you kind of had that moment of where you're doubting yourself a little bit. Maybe you have that imposter syndrome, where you feel like you don't belong, even though you throw 93, 95, right? Obviously, the mental side of baseball is so important. What did that moment teach you about your own career? And then what do you try and impart onto the youth that you instruct out there at DBAT?
So I'll take that back a little bit further. So in college, when I was growing up and stuff, my dad, he'd always instilled hard work. Like the one thing nobody can take away from me is how hard you work. And my dad was very militant about hard work. So when I got to college, I started off at a community college, then I went up to Mayville State for my last 2 years. And when I got up there, Coach Scott Berry was there. He's a legend. He's like the winningest coach in college history. He broke all kinds of records, and he's unreal. He would talk constantly about perseverance and overcoming what you had to get to that next level. And one of the things that he talked about was for you to get to a certain level, he had you get to this certain level. And then I didn't realize it till after I was gone, but when you got to that level, he would knock you down, which you thought you were down here, but you weren't. You were still here, but you thought you were here. And he just kept pushing and pushing and pushing because he knew that he could get more out of you. And what I learned is that when I got there, what I saw these other pitchers, and I didn't doubt myself. It was like I more or less was like, how can I be the best pitcher on this team? Which then it circled back to my dad of nobody can outwork you. So I just made sure I knew who the best pitchers were, and when I found that out, I completely whatever they did, I doubled it. So and then as I got into my senior year, Coach Barry before the season even started, it was actually fall ball of my junior year going in to senior year. And he had said something about, he gave a quote and it was great players. They do it until they work on things until they get it right. Professionals do it until they can't get it wrong. And that hit home. Like that really hit me hard. So it's like, when I did the drill work, when I did the pitching stuff, when I did all that stuff, I did it till I couldn't get it wrong. Then when I got into pro ball, when I got into Fargo, I looked and I was like, these guys are all really good, right? And it's very intimidating when you see 67 guys out there for maybe 3 spots, and you know they have to have one rookie. So like that was my only real shot in, so I have to be the best rookie. And what got me above everybody else was my slider. That was it. Like that was my pitch. That was my out pitch. And they were like, yeah, he's very Zimmerman like. Whoever that guy was at that time, they were like, yeah, and he was pitching. I think he was for the Saints or something at the time, and then he went on to have a career with Texas Rangers. I think it was Brian Zimmerman. I think his name was. Anyway, they were like, yeah, he's very Zimmerman like with that slider, but that intimidation, I think, is good. Well, I found it. Not only was I intimidated, but it was how do I get better than them? Like, how much harder can I work for them to get better? And what I instill in my kids, nobody could outwork me. Like, I made sure of that. But I honestly, like, I don't know if I had the talent like some of these other guys. You see the just pure God-given talent in some of these guys that you play. I wasn't that guy that could just roll out of bed and go play. I had to work hard. I wasn't very good, to be honest. And then you see these guys that are just like Shohei Ohtani. Like, who knows if we're going to see anything like that again, you know? So I instill that type of mentality into the guys that I train. Like, if you work hard and if you are the hardest worker on your team, and if you train like a professional where you can't get it wrong, you're going to have a good career. You're going to have something more to give to your team.
I'm taking notes for a column off of what Dave just said, just to let you know, if that's all right, Josh.
I coach my 11-year-old son right now, and one of the biggest things that I'm dealing with right now with these 11-year-olds is that failure. They can't handle failure, and I'm like, buddy, guys, this is failure. This is baseball. It's failure. Like if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're in the Hall of Fame. Like you are. Like you're that. If you fail that many times, and like I tell them, you know, a little line from, you know, like Ted Lasso, like you got to be a goldfish. 10-second memory. Forget about it. Move on. And they're getting better, but I think seeing what they're learning and how they're taking it to this new level of play, that gives me all the joy in the world to see it.
Yeah, baseball is obviously a game wrought with failure. I don't have to tell anyone listening to this, you know, about that. But there's so many quiet moments where your self-talk can just dominate your physical performance that if you don't put good input in, you're not going to get good output.
I got a question for you guys. I mean, this is along these lines, right? I mean, we all still play. I mean, my son asked me something yesterday before the Lobos game. We were just sitting there talking. We were eating lunch, and he just looks up and he's like, "Dad," he goes, "Do you still get nervous when you play?" And I said,
You want to go first, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I can take a stab at that one. Tiger Woods, I believe, was quoted as saying, "If you don't get nervous, you don't want it enough." Right? And if you don't get nervous, even from, you know, regular season, preseason friendly, whatever it is, if you don't get a little bit nervous, then you just don't want it enough. So yeah, I still get nervous out there all the time.
Oh gosh, I could probably attribute baseball to nudge myself into therapy. Baseball's supposed to be the escape, and then when you go 0 for June, all of a sudden you're like, what the hell am I doing with anything here? But yeah, so I 100% do.
He asked me that, and I was like, buddy, I go, I'm nervous right now, and I'm not even at the ballpark yet.
One more question. As a team, like Josh's team is a good, strong parking lot team, right? I know Wisconsin, growing up in Wisconsin, I get
Yeah.
how it is. I love it. But when we do our parking lots over here, it's usually our team, their team. In River Falls, it feels different because there's kind of a disconnect, not a lot of familiarity between most of us, whether it's you guys or the Silverbacks. And so we're not sure how to proceed sometimes, we usually go out into that dirt parking lot beyond the fence over there in left field and just kind of stay out of the way because we don't know what the protocol is, but we don't know how, if we just come over there and start kicking the shit around, like, hey, what's going on, if that's cool or
Well,
not,
that's
or
our
so.
fault. Yeah, that's our fault. I guess we're not. Yeah, we got to we got to do a better job of telling people to come over. I guess we hung out with the Lobo. We hung out with the Lobos on when we played our scrimmage game last week. Not Sunday, but yeah, we hang out with those guys, and yeah, we. So one of the things that happened, I guess, and this actually, Chris, this is a little bit of a reason. We were in a different division for a long time. Like we were in with Vesely and Webster, and so
That's
we
right.
like the Vesely guys. Those guys would all come over in their campers and their RVs and stuff, and they would come over.
They'd stay in that campground, right?
Yeah, they would stay in the campground, and we would do steaks with them and hang out, and so we had the what's the town over there by past New Prague, and they don't have a team anymore.
Like Jordan and stuff.
Anyway, but there's a bar and a church and a baseball field, but it's like we were in the South for a long time, and we kind of knew all those guys, and then we got put in the division we're in now, so we're just kind of starting to get to know the teams and stuff, and I think this is maybe our third year in that division, so we're kind of new to it, I guess, and so I guess I'll chalk that up. But yeah, you guys, I'm going to send out an open invitation over the Fed Up podcast that you guys are. We're approachable guys. You can come over and have a.
We'll bring Terry Knopp, the ambassador of the South Metro Saints, and he'll just lead the charge. He's the friendliest guy in the world, and I'm sure it'll just be in like Flint after that.
Sounds good.
Well, we're recording this on Cinco de Mayo, and happy birthday to Terry Knopp for all those that celebrate.
Happy birthday, Terry.
66 or 67, can't remember.
And still doing it at a high level.
Back it up, Terry.
Yeah, boy. All right, yeah.
Well, great. So there you have it. The groupers are back. They're healthy. They're infused with new young talent. They're approachable, and just an unbelievable time getting to know the two of you and the new manager and maybe what many would consider the face of the groupers and Dave Meyer. So thank you for sharing your stories and your baseball experiences. It's been a real pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this was fun. I had a great time, Josh and Chris. Appreciate you having us.
Thanks, guys.
Well, that is all the time we have for this edition of Fed Up. Thank you for listening. And until next week, stay fed.
Mickey